artists should have their own support groups, to be honest. I think that a lot of us have a lot of struggles in common, no matter what our medium is. I think that we share same sensitivities and often see the world completely different than most people. So sometimes the conflicts we go through or some of the inner hang-ups we end up, catching. Sometimes I think having a support group for artists who feel quite alone sometimes or have walls built up would be, I think, very helpful to help artists continue to flourish.
Are we starting the pod? Yeah, I'm going to say this is the start of the podcast.
It sure is.
This podcast is based around the history and experiences of the infamous Shane Bugbee, recollected and retold by Shane Bugbee himself. Who is Shane? Well, you're about to find out. I'm your host, Nannerl, and this is Speak of the Devil.
That's a good concept. That's a great one. But I think it's virtually impossible to have that. It's like the Satanic support group. We are so spread out. Look, I found you, but
yes.
You're across the country. You're not next door to me where we can share a meal. A lot of my friends that I have great friends, but they're all over the country. And this is something LaVey spoke about to me personally. This is something Peter Gilmore spoke about to me personally. These are something that any kind of satanic people that I've spoke to, I've spoke to you about it, and you have the same kind of conversation. Like, we have issue making friends near us, but we don't have issue making friends. It's within this philosophical mindset, and artists are the same way. I think what I've been searching for 20 years is what I had when I was a young man. And some people have said, oh, you're searching for your youth, but I'm not. I'm searching for an art community. And when I was younger, we had in Wicker Park, Chicago, we had an artist community. None of us got along, but we had a united front. And none of us got along, but I could go borrow glue from that motherfucker down the hall, Bill. Fuck him. Bill, I need some of that glue, and I saw it on your shelf. And I'd be like, no, you didn't. I saw it on your shelf. I need some glue real quick. Oh, yeah, okay. He'd go get the glue for me. Make sure you bring it back. You never bring shit back. There'd be bitter words between us, but I'd have the glue, and my project would get done. So those artist communities are what I look for, like an artist community where we're all working together. You know what I'm saying?
I think oftentimes we as artists want it to work so badly. We want that community because we want to connect with each other. So oftentimes scenes are created that, we create an artist colony, an artist community of people who may all be artists, but we don't necessarily get along with each other, or maybe we just aren't a good match. We just happen to be geographically near each other, just like 50s suburbia. Sort of keeping up with the Joneses, sort of you secretly hate your neighbor kind of thing.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from on that. There's a couple things I think of, like, I should talk by the microphone. So I was lucky. My perspective is so lucky because I come from a world-class city, Chicago. We got 12 million people to work off of here. So it's easy to get a group of like-minded people, even a Satanist community together. Mm-hmm. It's sort of easy. Outside of here, when I've gone to small towns, it's been almost impossible and so isolated and lonely because I just can't find artists of my any kind of artist. It's more crafters and stuff like that.
The definition of artist also is much broader in smaller communities because they have far less exposure to what, say, a world-class city would have. Chicago has a very long history of art.
Oh, yeah.
And, say Ely, Minnesota, probably not. It's probably a lot of folks who have been called artists by their friends and neighbors, but they have not received the scrutiny and the perception of society the way that a city does.
Yeah, that's good. Or they just, there's something like that.
Sort of like
That
being a
sounds
small
good.
town hero. You might be the quarterback in your small town, but when you go off to go to USC, you're small potatoes compared to the people who got recruited from the hood.
Yeah, something like that. I think that artists are always, even in small areas, though, I see like, even in those towns, even so, we're talking about maybe quality here. But people that wear the title of artist, even if I'll consider them crafters, but they call themselves artists, they're used over and over again for realty. They're used over and over again for like our biggest export in our country is art. No one will say that, but Disney's like one of the biggest things we've ever had in this country. And most artwork, like for how I see it, what I have the issue is artists don't really care about power. They don't recognize their power ever. They just want to share. They're a very sharing, generous tribe, and they're taken advantage of by realtors and banks. This is why I have the website Creative Class Trumps Ruling Class. It's all about this. Like when I learned about it was Detroit's hustle. Detroit was giving homes to artists. Come on, move in. We'll give you a home for $1,000. And then I read into it more, and the realtors were like, we give the homes to the artist. The artists always regenerate the neighborhood. They always make it different. And then we move them out based on the tax structure moving up because they'll never be able to afford the taxes. They'll fix up their homes. And we're not ripping them off because they'll get what they paid for. They'll get the home. If they put 10 grand into the home, they'll get that back when they sell it, but they can't afford the taxes. No way. They're artists. So they understand artists are a migratory group. And we'll just move willingly. Detroit's one of the most valuable pieces of property in America. It's a port city on an international border. Of course, it's a valuable property. When they keep selling it as doom and gloom and destruction, they're doing it to bring down property values. That's a bank and a realtor doing it. And the biggest tool to banks and realtors are artists. For 10 years, when I started Creative Class Trumps Ruling Class, the website, I did that to try to figure out a way to communicate to artists that we have such power if we got together. Like if 10 artists, when I was living in Portland, if 10 Portland artists went to a small fishing town that was going out of business and said, hey, we'll regenerate your business, we'll go to the bankers and realtors. If we went and pitched them and said, we could regenerate your town, but we want 2 city blocks. We want 2 city blocks of property. They would give it to us. But there's no kind of unity. It's hard to get that unity where you build a planned community. After that, you have to get your friends to move in, get voted into office, control taxes so you don't get moved out later. There's a whole process to this, a planned community. And I've not been able to get it to work, but there's the idea I just put out there in this microphone, and I'd like to put that idea out there that artists should try to get together and manipulate the system, game the system, instead of having the system game them.
I think art imitates life, and I think that if there's any listeners who are either inspired by or challenged by what we just said, I fully encourage you to say, hold my beer, and try it for yourselves. Maybe you could do a little better. We believe in you. Yeah,
exactly. That's oh geez, there's so much I could talk. I hope our podcast goes on for a long time past talking about my history and stuff like that, because I would love to talk about artwork. I could talk about artwork every fucking day, and I could talk about it for 10 hours a day. Maybe not every day for 10 hours, not 70 hours a week, but I could probably talk about artwork for 40 hours a week, because I can't figure out a definition of it. You said there was a definition. I'm like, I've been asking for 10 years, what is art? I ask people, what is art? For 10 years, I've got thousands of recordings, and I can't figure it out myself. You tell me, what is art to you? What is art to you? And then I'll tell you what is art to me. I'd love to hear what art is to you. What is it? What's your definition?
Art is a byproduct of ideas or an object created from inspiration that one holds valuable, more valuable than the everyday object, sound, or image.
So who's holding that, the artist or the consumer?
Unfortunately, what the artist calls art isn't always called art by a consumer. And the artist sometimes has to submit and find the pocket, find where the consumer refers to something as art, what the dealer, manager, or whoever is helping platform the product, even if it's himself or herself, as art, has to fit a middle ground or some sort of compromise that still defines it as art, but the consumer knows for sure as well that this is art.
How does that work for a tuna casserole?
For a tuna casserole to be
Because what if
art,
what if I'm proud of a tuna casserole?
it has to have a sense of elusivity. It can't be any tuna casserole. So perhaps it was created under a meteor shower. And this tuna casserole was made with the last drops of olive oil in it from a trip to Italy, and the tuna used in the casserole was not your usual Bumblebee brand, but rather the good stuff. Something you would never actually buy every day because it's a special day. It's the meteor shower. And you didn't make enough tuna casserole for the week either. You only made enough for you, your significant other, maybe a friend, and your cat.
Wow, I love this. You're very bold to think you know everything about artwork. It's good. I can't argue.
All right, what's art?
Very bold. For me, I'm not sure. I don't have an answer to what art is. I can tell you what isn't art a lot of times.
What isn't art?
I'm not trying to figure out what is art. What is to answer what is art. We're talking Satanism too. And I think that's escaping this conversation. But I think like the for me, all artwork is satanic. But not all artwork is artwork. What is it for me that makes me an artist? That's what I could start with. And it's like when I make art, it's the best. It's not therapy to me. But it definitely makes me feel good. It makes me feel like myself, like what I'm supposed to be doing. There's a gut instinct in artwork. There's not a scientific formula. There's not reason. And that's a weird part, but it's perfectly reasonable too. Artwork is a lot of things that I don't think you could put words to. There's a mystical element to artwork. It's magic. It's like you're creating something. It's not a road. It's not. Someone didn't teach me how to crochet, and I'm crocheting a blanket. Can people who crochet blankets become artists and make artwork out of that talent? Yes, but that's more of a craftsman type of thing. An artist, there's a magic to it. It's like, wow, you just Giger, this great satanic artist. I always think, where's our satanic artist in America? And I'm not talking about musicians, because I believe they're great, but I'm talking, where's our great sculptors? Where's our great, and I've been asking, and two, I love it. But like I asked my black metal friends, I'm like, I'm so jealous of Europe. They have satanic artists like Giger. He created that shit out of nothing, out of his mind. It just, and to transcribe, to translate what's in your mind and make it physical, that's magic. And there's a gut instinct. There's this toiling over it, but there's not insecurity. There's a security, but there's it feels like insecurity, but it's really toiling. Toil over the cauldron like a witch would. Toiling over the cauldron. The toil of artwork that's where we turn it into magic. And there's the deep focus that's dependent on magic to get manifest in your will. Part of that is deep focus, looking into the flame for 8 hours, they say. Stare into the flame for 8 hours. So what is that flame? The flame of knowledge, of course. People look at, I've had idiot occultists to have a candle. They're like, I'm staring into the flame. They're staring at a candle. I'm practicing my deep focus, I've been told. And I've seen this in action. I've went to people's house and they have a candle where they are practicing deep focus. And I'm like, I don't think that's the concept. The concept, that flame was a metaphor for the flame of knowledge. And so we're staring deep, deep, deep within ourselves. And that's where this magic comes from. And maybe that sculpture you make there doesn't hit the mark, but the next one does. You're just deep subconscious toiling. Sometimes I'll make a sculpture and wake up in the morning and I don't know where it came from barely. Sometimes I'll make one and I'll start crying and I don't even know why. Like I'm just fucking bawling, and I could be an emotional wreck, so I know the difference. This is a magic thing. There's something being conjured that I don't understand. There's a mystical part of this. And I think part of being an artist or art is having heart. If it doesn't have heart, fuck it, or integrity or heart. Like there's, those are things that I think of when I make stuff.
Do you think that you sort of take on the personality or the character of other characters when you create art?
No, I don't think so. Because I don't think about much more than now I'm cheating if I say it's all the time. When I make a piece of artwork, I don't know what the hell's going on. I start toiling, and it becomes like when you see movies, like a Harry Potter movie or all these movies where things are flying around in the air and things just come to you. Like I think of something and it's in my hand. That's how it feels when I'm making a piece of artwork sometimes. And then I know how to make a sculpture now, so I can fucking bang one out a lot of times. Like, boom. I dropped down a cover for a book once in 3 hours, and I shouldn't say 3, maybe 8 hours with drying time and everything. And that sculpture should have taken me a month. It's a beautiful sculpture, and it became a cover of a book. And it came together. I had this whole idea. The person asked me to do the cover, and I said, tell me about the story, and they did, and I gathered all my supplies to make it. And then as I listened to her reading of the book, I started to weep because it was really intense. It was this heavy story. I sat and listened to it. I was like, oh. And then I put it on repeat, and I repeated it for every hour I worked on that sculpture. I just kept listening to it. And it came together in a whole different sculpture, but it just came together. It was like, I was like, how the fuck did that even happen? Like it happened quick, but it was emotions, but it was beyond stubbing my toe emotions or someone hurt my feeling emotions. It was something different. It was every emotion, every feeling. I almost felt like I could feel her through her art, and it manifested something. I don't know if that makes sense.
It sounds like it's an experience that cannot be recreated.
Right. It is, and it's addictive. It's addictive. And when you meet an artist that is like the starving artist, they're addicted to that. That's when they talk about the crazy artist. Well, they're addicted to, they found magic. They found a portal. They've conjured, they've created spells, they've conjured things, they've been able to attract women or men, they've been able to get sex, they've been able to get tuna casserole, magic tuna casserole if they want it. They've been able to conjure things with their artwork, and that becomes addictive. Because you're toiling, toil. What is that? The witch
boil,
thing?
boil, bubble, trouble. Toil, and trouble.
I knew you, witch.
I think that as artists, we often conjure is a perfect word for this. We become a magnet for what we desire, what we need, and it sort of comes to us when we're in the pocket. We're in, like, when I say the pocket, I mean that experience you speak of, where
pocket.
Yeah, you're in the groove, that you opened up that portal. And I think that it's a very special experience that only true artists experience, and you cannot recreate it. It's hard to describe, and actually how you describe it is pretty much, I feel like, what I feel too. And but it's amazing as artists. When we say starving artist, it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing for every person. But for example, I can think of plenty of times that I settled for less in everyday life, like what I was eating, perhaps, or, what I would pay the bills for, just so I could use those resources toward my art. I would make those sacrifices or make those commitments toward my art and just have to live a little leaner, maybe, or have less. I can definitely I can rationalize expenses toward my art, but if If the food at the grocery store is $1 more, forget it. I'm going to wait till it's on sale.
But I think also there might be this component too. We are, maybe it's not heathens, but we are a group of people that toil with madness. Truly, like when people look at things, they're mad. We'll consume a case of wine, let's say, or we'll go get the salted latte. We need to have those things as we create. And we'll cut other things short, our own health. Like, yeah, I'm not going to see the doctor. They say you have a heart condition. Yeah, I'm going to get this fucking salted latte and a case of fucking wine and some weed because I need to make this, because I need to get into the studio and get insane, like feel the madness of life. And I don't mean madness in a bad way. I think Satanists, if you're staring into the flame of knowledge and you're going deep, you're going mad. You just have to be able to pull yourself out of it. And that's where in modern times we have the tool of counseling and therapy and psychology where we can pull ourselves out of that madness. But we do that. That's what you do when you're overthinking things, and that's what we do. I think. I don't know.
Your salted latte sounds very pointed.
Well, yeah, but it's my issue too. I have the same issues. Like I want to get a salted latte. I'm envious of salted lattes, but I'm chubby, so I'm trying to lose weight. So it's a whole different subject though. So I deny myself that.
Shout out to 7 Leaves Cafe and your salted drinks.
See, but I deny myself those pleasures for my artwork. See what I'm saying?
It'll be my treat.
Oh, great. But what do I? One of my things is dark chocolate.
It would go wonderfully with dark chocolate.
Exactly. So I get a really kick-ass dark chocolate, and I'll get 5 of those chocolate bars and come home to make artwork, and I'll eat like 80%, 90% dark chocolate because I need that to fuel my madness, to get and coffee, stuff like that. Like coffee I need.
I find myself waking up from sleep and having certain tastes in my mouth that I need to find. I need to suddenly make something that day or find it somewhere, and I have to eat it in order to create properly. I don't know if anyone else does this, but I often crave foods in dreams, and I have to find it within that day.
Yeah, so artists are scumbags in that respect. Like we think that's why I'm saying all artists, it's satanic, and I say scumbag in the best way. It's like we think of ourselves purely. Like it's like, fuck you, I'm getting my salted latte and I don't give a fuck. Like we'll go get it and then tell everyone around, like, yeah, I didn't get my salted latte. You sure? I saw you at the coffee shop. Yeah, I was there dropping off flyers. I didn't get the latte. Okay? I didn't get the latte. That's all I'm saying. Like Warhol's a great example. He used to tell he couldn't pay people. He didn't have money. He'd always tell it, but he'd go down to a jewelry store down the block and buy some fucking amazing bracelet that he'd never wear and just stick in a goddamn drawer. But he needed to do that, and he did it. He didn't compromise his needs. And I don't think artists compromise their needs too much. Sometimes they're met with, but we also roll with the punches, right? We also are in situations where we have to invent. We're out of paint, so we paint with coffee.
Yes.
We paint with coffee grounds. So we, like there's guitar players, that I've seen guitars made out of a fucking piece of wood, and they nail chords to it, electric, and make an electric guitar. I saw this Jack White movie, and he made a guitar in minutes out of some, like electric string. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And I'm like, that's, artwork is the mother of invention. Artists, scientists. We're like scientists.
EVH has the infamous Frankenstrat that has all that tape wrapped around it. He wrapped duct tape around his pedals on a board of wood, and it's because he needed it. And
right. And didn't have the money, right?
Exactly. And
or he had to balance that with the salted latte. He had to go, I gotta get this bottle of wine. And he was a wine guy, but he drinks a lot of wine. Like he's a heavy drinker. He has to drink to play guitar, or at least he used to. So there's that balance. Like I need my bag of weed. For me, I'm a weed head, or I was a weed head. So it's like I need to get my weed. Like you said, he needed those things.
But look what he creates. Look at his success, and it's completely satanic. what he's created in his empire as a musician.
That's true. There's some luck, though. There's some luck in all of this. In his success, I think success has an air of luck to it.
Oh, definitely.
Because he came from a musician family too. But anyway, I don't want to talk about Eddie Van Halen. Let's talk about satanic artwork. What do you think satanic artwork is?
I think it's artwork that pushes the envelope. It's almost every form of art, but especially the outliers, the ones looking at life and they reflect it. I think of things like Pablo Picasso's Guernica. It's absolute chaos, but at the same time, it reflected the chaos going on. Or I think of even like more modern ones, like Francis Bacon.
Right.
And, just the reflection of art, the softness and harshness at the same time.
Of himself.
Yes.
That was like him. Like when I hear his story, I'm like, wow, these are all self-portraits.
Yes.
This is all from the heart. His heart. That's the heart element. Like he had heart. You can feel his paintings, and I don't even know why I like them. Like.
Right. Or like just plain artwork that you can't even describe what's going on. The complete abstract, where it's like an image of emotion. The ones that people who don't understand art look at and go, oh, I can make that at home. And in reality, you are seeing a snapshot of someone's soul. You are seeing a snapshot of something that happened to them that they are telling the world about. And because they view the world differently and they communicate differently, this is how it comes out. This is their recording.
I think abstract's all we really understand.
Yes.
So I think when people see this, I could make that. You're right, you could. That's what you really understand is that bright color red. Words escape us. We fuck up everything with words. But that bright red painting that you're making fun of it because it's you. It's how you understand things. Red triggers you. There's a trigger happen. Yeah, so abstracts are where it's at. I love abstracts.
It's very primal. And I think that even people who say, I don't understand art, they do. Deep down inside, they don't want to own up to it a lot of times. Or they don't understand that art is not always what's appealing to you. The people who are always craving the photos of fences and flowers want the fences and flowers because it doesn't push them. Because it doesn't push them outside of a comfort zone. Whereas
they like the nostalgia.
Yes, like Ansel Adams kind of artwork, dentist office paintings. Right. And those I don't think those are I think that is craft, that is mass production, and that's just the movie The Holy Mountain by Jodorowsky?
Yeah. There's one of my favorite god artists.
I was going to mention anyway,
Jodorowsky is my church.
Anyway, there's the part about the man who represents Mars, and I think it's Mars, and he's the art dealer, and he's got that factory where the women are like putting ink on their butts and stamping onto the assembly line of paper. That is dentist's office artwork to me. That is boardwalk art. When people they've drawn this weird minimalist quasi In-N-Out Burger looking painting of the beach and sold it in Santa Monica. No offense, people who do this, but come on, do better.
But brother's got to get his bottles of wine.
Yeah, brother's got to get his bottles of wine. And to be fair, artists like this, perhaps you have your magnum opus at home and we haven't seen it. And maybe you're doing this to pay off debts. Maybe you're doing this to get ready for something else that you just are not ready to express yet. So that's me almost. I play that game. Mm-hmm. I have trinkets. I have a pin shop. I sell enamel pins, patches. I do design work strictly to sell things. I'll put skulls on things, and it's strictly to sell. It's only to get my bottles of wine, my salted latte, and my bag of weed. It's like being, I've had more experience playing as a hired gun than as my own music, and I think that most classical trained players can relate to this, that you have more work as an ad hoc musician playing things that are not your choice than music that you truly love.
And I think that's an important part of the artist, the Satanic Artist too, is we're tricksters. We're able to trick. We're able to create illusions for other people. Pay us.
Yes.
We'll make a portrait of you, and you'll be the most beautiful thing ever. You know, we'll create a song for, you know, we have patrons, and we trick. Those are tricks, but those aren't the opus, as you're saying, the great piece, the great work. Maybe they are sometimes. Who knows?
Yes,
I don't like portrait artists myself.
So let me go back to the boardwalk and kind of, you know, the everybody artists, and just mention, I don't mean any offense. I do believe in you, but I really hope that you have more behind the curtain as an artist, and that you have a lot of potential to do greater things as well when the time has come.
Yeah, but maybe that's what makes, maybe that's,
you paused there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think everyone can do that. That's what I say. All artwork is satanic, but not all art is artwork. A lot of people on the boardwalk are creating artwork, and they don't have the desire to go anything further than tricking people to get their bottle of wine. They're like happy with that. They don't have they're like, oh, I was taught this in art school. I can drop down a portrait like a motherfucker. Bring your mom over. I'll make her look good. Boom.
Perhaps that's good enough for them.
Right. And I think the Satanic Artist, Giger didn't stop creating ever. He could have. Dali did not stop creating, and he was a trickster, and he fucking fucked with people. Picasso, they had the trickster in them. They had the great art. They had all of it. It was just really cool stuff to me to watch. To the little history I know of artwork, I'm all self-taught. I want to hate those guys. I want to hate these masters. I come into the game hating them, and I listen and I watch these documentaries. And I'm like, man, you motherfucker. Jodorowsky's my church. And he's someone that has towed the line. He does not sell out. There's not too many sellouts with dude. There's not too many tricks where he had to make money. He did things that afforded him respect, but not money.
I think he also was an incredibly lucky person. But he also was a skilled occultist.
But look, what is his payment? What has been his payment in life? He doesn't have riches, but he has such respect. Like Kanye West is like, that's my church, basically. He's like, Jodorowsky's my God. He says that. He follows Jodorowsky. So Jodorowsky has respect amongst all kinds of, from my end, underground, to this top tier commercial artist. Jodorowsky has, he can, that's something artists have that people envy. Is that we get into places other people don't. I get in the back door. I get to be travel for free. Someone will say, oh, come to my house and make artwork with me. Jodorowsky has that respect is a brick of gold that can't pay a bill, or can it? You know, pay.
He's a bit like a LaVey.
Oh, yeah.
Very similar. Like if they were from if they were from a different planet, they were from the same planet. I think Dali probably similar ilk.
Sun Ra, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So back to the question, what makes an artist satanic? Or you were saying that all artists, like, artists are satanic. What separates them?
Artists are satanic, but not all artists make art. Something like that. Yeah, I'm not. Mm-hmm. Well, I think before I was talking about craft, I wrote this thing in the book I did. I could try to read it.
Yes, please.
I don't know if that answers the question at all, but I think it's doing what you want, right? Do what thou wilt. I wrote some of the stuff, the gut instinct. The editing process, like when you're an artist and you're like, that's enough, or I'm going to put some red paint here. That decision-making process, that paint person that made that big red abstract painting we're talking about, that most people go, I could do that. But that was a brave decision to go, I'm going to put a canvas of red paint, different shades of red, and call it a piece of art. That is what makes it satanic, not needing to fit in, but deciding for yourself, this is what this is. You know, this is my piece. This is this red abstract. And when I was younger, I probably said the same kind of stuff. But I understand the bravery of putting that out, the courage it takes to say, this is that. This is art. And people are like, what in the fuck is, like Pollock. I hear the trick is like, I hear the night before he made his big masterpiece, the thing that took off and was a trend, was he couldn't figure out what to paint. And so he just started moving paint around like he did. And he called it art. That courage, I think that's part of that self. That's a self thing. That's within the self. The toiling. I'll try to read this. I don't mean to go yammer on too much. Art and mysticism, can one exist without the other? Artists blur the line of creation and ritual, illusion and reality, joy and letdown. The art underworld is a world of magic, and all artists are occultists, but not all artists are artists. Real art isn't taught in schools. Not everyone can be an artist, and all magicians can make magic. Seeking occult knowledge leaves your hands tired and your skin wrinkled. It is a forever addictive act. It is dominance and submission at the same exact second. It is listening to the tree drink you. In our over-civilized world, man has become detached from ritual and from creativity, both required for survival of the human race. Beware, be aware, magic and art are one in the same, different sides of the same coin. Artists can be magicians if they can make art. Artists are rare among artists. Occultists are rare among occultists. Struggling to make art out of deep self is deep. Struggling to go deep is to make magic. If depth is reached, depth is rare among those who go deep.
I think it definitely has the complexity of defining art and defining an occultist or a Satanist as artists. I think that in its own way it hits the nail on the head. It's complex. Everything is intertwined in an artist's life. Nothing stands alone for artists. You know, what we eat, what we do, what we spend our money on, what we work for. And so it has to hold hands with all those subjects. I could totally see how that is. It's also like a momentary thing. I feel like I can keep going on with these thoughts, but I have to. There's some great quotes I love that one of my great mentors, I would say my master, the master artist Dave Archer, my great mentor. I've had many mentors, but he's been the longest. And we go over quotes that artists would say, and I give them all to Picasso because I don't know art history, and this is just the way my mind works. But the one is where art is never finished, it's abandoned. And I love that quote. That actually goes straight into what I was about to ask about, is that are artists also brave? Because sometimes we put out there unfinished work or work that we may internally feel one way about, but the rest of the world
they're very generous. Sometimes courageous, sometimes brave. Yes, I mean, look at how the free spirit is the reaction to people who are chained to religion. Let's say, since we're talking Satanism, chained to these philosophies that have gone into religious mode. They want to hurt people who are living their lives and are having joy. Whether it's through their sexuality, how they express themselves, or if they decide to express themselves through art, and art is part of that, is sharing, generosity. The generosity of artists is incredible. That's why artwork it's reasonable to fund artwork. We fund the world. You know, we're so generous. And yeah, it's courageous to put your heart out there for people to make fun of you. Or some people as an artist of 35 years, I don't even know how I made it this far, because you put artwork out there and then there's assholes that want to kick you in the nuts for it, hurt you. They want to make fun of you. They want to challenge you. They want to climb on you. And then there's people who want to pamper you, want to bring you in and feed you caviar and give you the finest things and love you and treat you nice. And and wash your feet and treat you like a god. And then there's people who are and then you're in the middle room where we're in that artist community we were talking about, where we're like challenging each other, we're hanging out, we're just getting off on this energy, this total passion, this amazing conversation about what it could be, what is it, this philosophical heaven, for lack of a better word. When you get into it with other artists, it's great, the conversation. And that's what makes it satanic to me, is the heavy thought, the going deep. Those things are, and the gifts you get, and the muscle you build by being able to turn your back on people that are not of your ilk, not of your level. They haven't stratification. They haven't risen to that level, so they're making fun of you. But maybe in 10 years they won't be. They'll feel you. Young artist.
Yes. You mentioned about. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Deep focus. Deep focus is an interesting concept because it makes me think of how much discipline, how much time as artists we work on a lot of things beyond the finished piece. And we spend a lot of time sometimes just thinking about the piece. Sometimes we spend time rendering it, and sometimes it even involves marketing. And I think that this is a major separation between true artists and people who want a piece of it. Oftentimes the amateur, or the one who just wants the concept, wants the idea of being an artist, does not have the patience or the time for that deep focus.
They want the religion of art. They want to be able to buy the cross and hang it around their neck and go, look at me, I'm you. We're the same clique, right? But yeah, like you just said, like
yes.
All that is the painful part of artwork. How dare you bring that up here? We're talking about beauty. Oh God, marketing. Oh, presentation. I could be done with the piece. I'm done with this. I know I have all the answers I need. Mm-hmm. And to anyone else, it looks half finished. And it is. It's not ready for presentation, but I got everything I'm ever going to get out of it. It's done to me. So now I've got to fucking spend 6 more hours on it, cleaning it up for presentation, and then more time taking photos of it. I hate photos. I hate taking photos of my sculptures. I hate the marketing of it. It is work. It is.
Because you've been looking at it the whole
Get
time.
Out of here now. I've made you have a life.
Postpartum depression.
Yeah, all the work that you brought up is so true. That's the secret people don't know, or the obvious is how do you do it? I work 18 hours a day for $1 an hour. That's that work. But magic takes a lot of work. There's a lot of toil over the cauldron, stirring, looking at the boils bubble.
I think of also, those Pinterest photos called Nailed It? And it's people who attempted to bake something or cook something based on an example they saw on the internet. And oftentimes the problem with baked goods is that the frosting has melted and it fell apart because they didn't allow it to cool. Or they cooked something at the highest temperature ever because they thought it would cook faster. They didn't allow the certain times of it. And I think that even within the context of cooking, there's deep focus involved with people who are skilled at cooking. And so I'm going to just rope that in there, that oftentimes the ones who want the religion of it are kind of like the Nailed It people on Pinterest. They couldn't hone in their craft. They couldn't take the time to do it, so they have these sad Cookie Monster
Part of, I think, what
cookies.
makes it satanic for me is the idea that a real Satanist to me fails. The fake ones are the ones that wear fedoras or have the Betty Page haircut I think we spoke of, or at least personally, we've spoke of this fashion of Satanism, and they'll don those things, but they won't admit failure. And part of life with every creature, the eagle, the greatest eagle ever, has failed at some point in not getting their food. You know, they didn't get the salmon. They swooped in and did not get it. Part of being a Satanist is being able to pick yourself up and brush yourself off as many times as it takes to reach your goal. Fucking 100 times. You just keep going. You struggle. The struggle is where there's this accomplishment to me that empowers me. And accepting failure is part of that. And I don't think a lot of those people can. I wonder, maybe they do accept their failure. They present those pictures online of their nailed it stuff. Maybe they're laughing at themselves. I'm not sure. Because that's funny. I like what you're saying.
I think that master occultists and people who have mastered art, I think that they are the best at laughing at themselves, even in private. They've made the most mistakes also.
Well,
you know, think of okay, fucking Yo-Yo Ma. One of the most perfected classical musicians, probably the best known besides Itzhak Perlman of the 20th century. We've all seen Yo-Yo Ma play his cello in something. You know he made a lot of mistakes to get there. You don't see what's behind the scenes, but that deep focus is what created what you see playing for the president, playing for the queen, playing for wherever. And, you don't know how much blood, sweat, and tears went through him to get, to the playing status he has. He probably laughs about his mistakes.
I wonder. Different characters, different times. I wonder. Maybe you're right about when you're a master, you can laugh at things, and maybe that has something to do with age. I know when I was younger, I don't know if I could necessarily. I did not laugh at my mistakes. I would kick over. I'd be pissed off about it and struggle through to make it happen again. Motherfucker, and break something. I had 20 years ago, I would go to thrift stores and get these 10-cent coffee mugs. And if I made a mistake, I had to fling them against the wall. I would fling them and smash them.
You had ammunition to throw?
Boxes of it. And I would go in the basement and whip it against the wall. I'd put like safety glasses on and everything. Because I found I did it a couple times in my lair. Come on, Uncle Lair. That was a joke. In my studio, anywhere, I'm throwing a coffee mug. I guess that's an inside joke if I say lair, but it was a joke without disrespect. But I would be in my studio and I'd whip a coffee mug against the wall and break the drywall. So then I learned, wow, I'm a total ape about this. Okay, so I go to the thrift store, buy a big box of them. They're a dime a piece, and I put them in the basement. And I would go down there and whip mugs at the basement because I'd be so fucking pissed I had to refocus. So I'm like, you motherfucking idiot, you piece of shit, to myself. Calling myself names. Just so angry at myself for how could I fail? I have a fedora. I've never owned a fedora, but how dare me fail? I'm the greatest person ever, and so with time that gets whittled off.
I think it's part of learning that deep focus. And when I was, my story time. When I was 8 years old, I accused my music teacher as well as the metronome of being cahoots against me. The metronome is there to keep time. It's like a calculator. It doesn't lie. It's like a ruler. It doesn't lie. And I shrieked at my teacher that it's speeding up on purpose. I'm not the one doing it. And she laughed at my face. And I remember being so angry at both of them. And I threw my metronome on the ground.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
My dad had to solder back together it had, what are the batteries that are square? 9 volt.
9 volts.
It took a 9-volt battery and had that little like thing to click it in, and the little wires. My dad had to solder it back together because the weight of the battery bore out, and so it shot out of there when I slammed it on the ground. Poor metronome.
I love those tantrums, tantrums that, but I don't anymore because with maturity, you know, or age, something like that. I don't know what it is. I don't have an answer for it, but I know I don't have tantrums too much anymore. I sort of miss them. I've been wanting to have one, like I need it in a ritual sense. I need to go break some coffee mugs. But for some reason, I just can't. I just don't have it in me.
It sounds like a dog is having a rage moment.
Sorry.
His poop creation did not come out as planned, so he's got to go eat more crayons.
Yeah, it's the dog next door. They let him out and just barks. I want to give him the secret to dogs barking, like take your dog for a fucking walk once a day, but, you know, won't bark so much.
Maybe you can take him for a walk and make a friend.
I would love that. I have to go.
You can be like his uncle and hang out with him.
Now here's something, you know, it's because of who I am, it's hard for me to make friends with general population. And they run a daycare center next door. So it's not good for their business or mine to be friends. Next thing.
I don't think the dog being there is good for their business either.
But I'm just saying, for me, I don't even know how to approach it. As a regular person going, as a regular dude, I'd be like, yeah, I'll go walk your dog. But I'm like, Shane, the devil guy next door, it's like,
show up when the kids are there. Hey, kids!
Yeah, and I don't really like kids anyway, so I'm not into kids. But for most of my life, for all of my adult life, I've kept children out of my home. They have to be with an adult. They're their parents. They can't. When I had nieces, I don't know if they're my niece, whatever. I have a breakup happening, so I don't know how to phrase things. A niece would come over. Yes, I'll just phrase it like that. My niece would come over, make friends in the neighborhood, want to bring them over to play, and she couldn't. And she couldn't understand at a young age why. I'm like, because of the business I'm in. You just can't have them over here. I did pornography. You just can't have kids over.
That's a very strange thing to explain to other parents.
Yeah, I did obscene books, and my books are like radical, politically radical. It's not like just, I work for Playboy. It's a little tits and ass action. It's hardcore obscenity, stuff that's been put through the courts. It's like anti-religious stuff, like fuck God. I had this big artwork, this priest fucking a little boy, splitting him in two, and it says fuck God over it. I had that in my house at the time. I'm like, I can't really have a child seeing that artwork, just them seeing it. Like if their parents bring the kid in the house, I feel odd about it. Like I've had people like, yeah, my kid can see anything. I'm like, yeah, how about not in my house? Like,
that's awfully responsible of you too.
Well, I was...
as much as they're allowed to have rules for their kids, you have to be responsible for what you got, too.
Right, I'm professional. I play a irresponsible person on TV, but I pretty much take my calling in life seriously, and this path that's dragging me along seriously. I don't want anything to harm it, my legacy or whatever. So I've turned down a lot of opportunities that other people would take. And I have to turn down things like that I would love to have. Like I would love to have my niece bring the kids over and be able to witness that as just a human being, being able to witness life, not children playing necessarily, but life. I would love to go over to my neighbors and walk their dog. But those are the sacrifices you make when you do this kind of stuff I'm not sure if I'm going to call it a living. It's not the easiest way to make a living.
Do you think that artists all have to take off their hat in some places? Like hang their hat and be a different person in civilian settings? Or do you think that artists are safe as artists in all environments?
Well, two different questions almost. I guess I would say, I don't think artists are safe in all environments. I don't think any human being is safe in all environments. especially the ones that are in full of joy, especially the ones that are like, I am fucking so happy. You know, we have Pride Weekend this weekend, Pride Weekend in Chicago. I grew up here when it was a whole different thing. Like there was violence attached to the gay movement. And so heavy violence. It's very acceptable now. Not that there is not violence still. There is. And the trans community is on the front line of that stuff and free thought and all that, you know. But that's exactly it, because look at the trans thing for an exact thing. They're expressing themselves, this free thought. They're like, this is what I am. This is what's going on. And they're getting beaten down. They're getting threatened by our politicians, by our lawmakers. They're threatened. They're not just threatened by some foolish kid in school making a mistake. They're threatened by our lawmakers. It's like approved harassment. So that's like I would apply that to the artist life. Censorship, how people try to control artwork. That's a hard thing. Do I think people have to take off their hat? I guess they have to know what behooves them, right? They have to. I like that term. They have to know where and when to wear their hat. For me, I'm a militant artist. I choose to take enemies with anyone I have to take my hat off. You know, and if that puts me on living on people's couches when I'm 70 years old, so be it.
You can live on our couch. Thanks,
but it's a rough time as an old man living on a couch. I just got off one for 6 months after this split. And but I'm not going to conform to that shit. I'm not. If a place wants me to not be, like moving in here, a couple friends advised me. I put some upside down crosses in here. And a couple of friends said, well, maybe that's not the best thing with all you've been through. You know, your landlord's friendly, maybe comes in and sees that. And I said, you know what? Would you say that to a gay person? Hide their rainbow flag? Not now. Today you wouldn't. You'd be offended that they'd have to, if a gay person, I have to hide my rainbow flag. And plenty do. But in general, the left, and I'm talking about left-wing people, they were offended by that concept. But the upside-down cross should come down because it might offend my landlord. Well, no, it's me. Why would I take that down? You know, fuck this. Fuck that, man. I just can't understand it anymore. I got to be myself. I'm 50 years old. I've hid that stuff long enough. It's enough. I'd rather go down myself. If it's going to destroy me, let it destroy me. But better I'm destroyed as myself than half myself. I'm not going to destroy myself. Me becoming half myself, like you say, taking my hat off, or that stuff makes me a different person. And I don't want to do that anymore. You know, it takes so long to blossom into who and what you are in this stupid society. You know, once you blossom into who you are, you should stay strong and defend it the best you can.
If you're prevented from blossoming, you will wilt.
Right. I don't want to wilt. No. I'm old. I'm already naturally wilting. Like my hair's coming out of my head. Like,
so sad.
Well, it's just like, well, you do. You get older and you're like, fuck, I'm getting smaller. It's just the science of it. It's sort of interesting to experience. Like it's sad from your perspective. For me, I'm just like always tripping out and I'm like, I can't believe this shit's happening. Look at my eye. Look at my face. It's changing before my eyes. And my eye, I can't really see well. Let me get my glasses. It's fun actually. It's very weird to deal with. And you have to learn everything differently. You know, you have to see things differently. You have to see things as, oh, that's a young person looking at you. You're not them. Or that's it, you know.
I think that true artists also, this sounds odd, but I think that they know, this sounds so fucked up. I think that true artists know their place in society. I think they're completely aware of who they are. And by that, I mean kind of like having an upside down cross at home. It's at home. You're not putting the upside down cross in the middle of Stater Brothers or, you know, Walmart or something like that. It's at your home. And I think that true artists can be themselves effortlessly, but they don't feel the need to step on others' toes or push their way through to identify themselves.
But they do feel the need to push people, to provoke people, I think. But you're right, not for themselves. But not for themselves, for the generosity of it all, right? I think you have I don't know, does it sound fucked up because of the concept of you know your place?
Yes, I think that the phrasing sounds pointed in 2019.
I get it, and that yeah. Okay, but it's true. Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I think younger, you see, this is where we are. We can't. It's a hard, because as Satanists, we deal with the stratification. We deal with levels. So younger artists might not know that, but they learn it. They learn it quick that being an artist is an isolating thing at times. And it's a really great and fun and euphoric thing at times when you run into a group of artists and you can talk about anything in the world. Like anything. Nothing's off limits. It's a beautiful moment. That's part of the addiction of being an artist, is to find other artists and just talk about anything and just expand yourself. Mm-hmm. But you're right. I think they understand what danger, that's part of survival, knowing your place. I think you're right about that. I can't see I don't see that. I get, it's hard when you say that's a fucked up statement, it's hard for me to understand it because I'm older, and these are younger concepts.
I think someone 10 years younger than me, or I'm sorry, I lied about my age, 490 years younger than me, might feel like it's a little bit of a problem word because we have a lot of concepts now of validation that make it very difficult to discuss true art versus not just the religious idea of art. And I think that the idea that, oh, I'm one of you because we're all artists, or the idea that we all do this, we all do that, that's included in society now, where, sort of like the idea we talked about the kits. Now the artist can sell a kit to the amateur. I think that idea has sort of blurred a lot of lines. Look at DIY culture and YouTube. It's carefully marketed where it's not so much taken seriously to be an artist, but rather be a self-labeled guru, a expert per se. But no one's really looking at the art itself. They're looking at the fame someone received. It's quite interesting that became the line of separation, and then everyone is then deemed an artist. Well, it's quite odd.
Yeah, I'm a person who thinks long and hard about a subject, so I will have to think about that. Part of it, for me, the beginning part of it, like younger people not wanting to hear the concept of your place is like a politically correct thing that I think is good. Your place comes from what I would understand is women. Women should know their place. That's how I've heard it used.
I see.
So,
yes.
So in that context, I go, yeah, that should be stricken from the record. People shouldn't know their place. They should test everything, and they should, but you should know your place. You should know who, but that's by yourself, not someone else telling you, know your place, bitch. Know your place, correct. Motherfucker. It's like you should see that, but we're going back to Satanism and not society. Like Satanists should know their place. And for me, I'm in my lair. I'm in my home. Like I'm going to hang my upside down crosses. Now, by that context, check this out. Dude comes over to install person of color comes over to install black dude comes over to install the internet, and a song comes on, and it's about Hitler. And it's a funny song about, I know, okay, whatever, fuck off. It's the fuck Emos, Berlin 45, look it up. So it's this weird song where they're talking about, oh, they'll never take him alive. Something about the Fuhrer's, they want to take the Fuhrer alive. And I'm like, God, just hearing that line, I know it's funny, but now this gentleman's here, and I'm like, sorry about my crazy music. And he goes, oh, dude, this is your home. I don't give a fuck. You play what you want. The exact next song was Eazy-e, though. Compton, boom, broke right into it. He's making fun of Dr. Dre being gay or whatever. And it's like, so it's very politically incorrect music. Could have been. Anyway, I was happy that my shuffle went there, right? Boom. But I knew like when he said that, I was like, yeah, this is my home. This is my place. That's why I hung those like that, because it makes me happy. Me taking them down is going to make me sad in my own home. Like, fuck that shit. If my landlord has issue with that, I'll deal with it when that happens. Like, I'll charm him somehow. I'll tell him, oh, it's just a heavy metal record. It's just something from a heavy metal record I got. I'll lie.
Yes. And I think that guy also, he's there to do his job.
For me, I'm like, oops, I don't know how to explain this song. It's a really, fuck Emos, ever hear of them? I don't, it was an embarrassing moment for me, but almost. It was funny. It's embarrassing to tell the story. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, just know your place. I don't know. I like that concept, what you said. To write is to sit and bleed. That's a quote I like. There's another quote I like about artwork. And I wanted to just say these quotes because I like saying them every once in a while. But there was this concept when I grew up, I heard this quote: film will not be an art until the supplies to make a film cost as little as a piece of paper and a pencil. And I really love that concept. I was like, oh, that's such a great concept. Because I was a young person at the time when I heard that. And someone told me, because I was struggling to want to use video. I wanted to make documentaries. And I couldn't afford the camera. The library wouldn't buy one to rent out or loan out. And someone said that. And I was like, yeah, filmmaking's not an art. But pencils are. Pencils.
Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and tune in to our next episode, wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. You can find us at Speak of the Devil Pod on Twitter and contact us at speakofthedevilpod@gmail.com. For Shane's artwork or to support his endeavors, please visit ShaneBugbee.com or find him on Twitter at ShaneBugbee. I've been Nannerl. Have a good one.
Oh, and ShaneIsTheDevil.com.